Warringah.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I rise to speak to these bills. I thank the government on behalf of Warringah for its prompt responses to this crisis today. While the measures outlined in these bills are far-reaching and welcome, legislation prepared in haste has gaps, and some key groups will miss out on receiving support. I've already written to the Treasurer and the Prime Minister outlining the many concerns people in Warringah have. The issues with JobKeeper, many miss out and are inadvertently not supported inadequately, such as casual employees, pay-as-you-go contractors and temporary visa holders. These groups are all proudly included by the government in reports of employment figures, so they should now, at their time of need, be included in the government's response. Casuals, to require a consistent relationship with an employer for over 12 months disqualifies many casual employees who have been working routinely for a range of employers over many years. This does not reflect the modern workforce. For those ineligible for JobKeeper, the government says they are caught and supported by JobSeeker. However, this gives rise to inequity between single and dual income families, and one that I fear will impact women the most, as whilst JobKeeper does not impose a partner income test, JobSeeker does. Whilst I appreciate that the income threshold has been raised, over 55% of families in my electorate are dual income families, and many of these will be left in the cold to cope with substantially reduced family incomes. This may have dire mental health and domestic violence consequences. Position needs to be addressed in relation to pay-as-you-go contractors. It is inadequate today. Many in the arts, entertainment and fitness industry work through pay-as-you-go contractor relationships from project to project. They cannot turn to a previous employer for JobKeeper, and many will not be eligible for JobSeeker. I urge the government to consider a special package for the arts and entertainment industries. We should ask ourselves, where would we all be in this period of home isolation without the arts and entertainment industries? Visa holders and other vulnerable groups in our community. There is no assistance for many in the measures to date. Asylum seekers do not have another place to go. They are here because they have fled for their safety. They are in our community and require assistance. There are many in our community who have applied for permanent residency before 1st of March 2020. They have lived, they have worked, they have paid taxes in Australia for many years, and they too should be eligible. Many childcare centres, restaurants and others in the service industries rely on foreign workers to support their trade. If we want those industries to recover and those businesses to reopen, we must also support their workforces. I urge the government to extend their measures to these groups. In addition, the government should provide greater clarity for start-up businesses that have been in existence for less than a year and the mechanisms through which non-profits will qualify. Many non-profits diversify their business model and will not be eligible for JobKeeper due to the requirement of a 15% reduction overall the whole business. Yet essential services to our communities will be lost and many will lose employment. Self-funded retirees. Now, this crisis has shaken many individuals who have carefully planned for their futures. I have received many representations from self-funded retirees who have been decimated by losses of income. These individuals have worked hard throughout their lives. They've contributed to Australia's wealth and they've pragmatically saved for their retirement. They have not previously been a burden on the welfare system. Many self-funded retirees are impacted by the government's call for landlords to set aside or reduce commercial and residential rents. I urge the government to consider a time-limited access to a support payment like the coronavirus supplement afforded to job seekers. This should only be assessed if an individual can show 30% or more decline in income from property and where that income, of course, is below a certain threshold. The rental situation is dire. I've received many very concerning reports of unscrupulous behaviour in relation to tenants, but also in relation to landlords. Large companies that continue to operate at profit are using the crisis to stop paying rent to small self-funded retirees, to large profiteering landlords refusing to negotiate on ongoing commercial leases of businesses forced to close. Unless help is provided, many businesses will simply not be there when we get through this crisis to reopen, and they will not be in a position to sign up to the JobKeeper package and keep their employees. I appreciate the work done to develop the amended Code of Conduct for commercial tenancy, but more oversight and assistance in this area is urgently needed. The childcare package released this week, whilst well-intentioned, has caused much negative consequences to childcares operated by local councils, family daycare providers and many in the sector. Many childcare providers in Warringah were still operating at high capacity at the time of the announcement, and then saw their income cut to a third of what it was as a result of the government's announcement. They are now facing closure. Oversight. With unprecedented expenditure and discretion given to decision-makers, we must have appropriate parliamentary oversight and scrutiny. There needs to be flexibility and discretion to provide for the very many varied scenarios, but there also needs to be accountability. And whilst the Senate Select Committee announced is better than nothing, it will not provide the appropriate and timely scrutiny and collaborative input to Australia's response to the crisis that we should see. Whilst the bills presented today provide certainty for some Australians, there are many who will continue to fall through the cracks. I am concerned that the mental health and well-being of these individuals in particular will continue to advocate for amendments to the legislation to capture their situation. There remains many areas of concern in Australia's response to this crisis, especially the repatriation of Australians still stranded overseas. I again urge the government to adopt a more collaborative approach in developing its responses, especially in relation to the makeup of the Coordination Committee. It is essential that this committee include independent and expertise from all sectors and regions to ensure our response and economic rebuild is as strong and as future-focused as it can be. I feel strongly for our youth, who will need to carry much of the burden of the recovery for Australia, and especially the class of 2020. Thank you again to all our frontline workers, the public transport operators, the health workers, the lifeguards, rangers, police and school teachers. Thank you for keeping Australia going and safe. And to all Australians, especially everyone in Warringah, please stay home and stay safe.
The original question was that these bills now